Hey, Shakespeare Shakers, and welcome to episode 7 of A Rose by Any Other Name, the vodcast that makes Shakespeare less of a tragedy and more of a triumph for your brain. I'm Mr. Rose, and today we are diving into Act 2, Scene 3, and Scene 4, where Romeo turns from heartbroken boy to hopeful husband, and we meet the man who might just be Verona's most complicated character, Friar Lawrence. Let's unpack herbal metaphors, witty jewels of words, and a secret marriage that's about to change everything. Our summary of Act 2, Scene 3 is going to be titled The Botanist and the Boy. The sun rises over Verona, and we find Friar Lawrence collecting herbs and flowers in the early morning light. He's musing like a philosopher about how everything in nature has both a good and bad inside it. He talks of a flower that can heal, but also might poison. Sound familiar? That's Shakespeare's hinting at where this story is going. Friar Lawrence's speech is deep. He's talking about plants, yeah, but he's really talking about people. Virtue and vice can live side by side. Love and hate, healing and harm, good and bad. A little bit of foreshadowing, perhaps. So Romeo rushes in, all excited, and Friar Lawrence naturally assumes that he spent the night with Rosalind. But Romeo surprises him. I've been feasting with mine enemy. Translation, he says, I'm in love with Juliet Capulet, and I want you to marry us today. The friar is shocked. He scolds Romeo for being so changeable, so impulsive, and reminds him how recently he was obsessed with Rosalind. Romeo argues that Juliet actually loves him back, unlike Rosalind. Though the friar is doubtful, he agrees to help, hoping that their love might heal the hatred between the Montagues and Capulets. But with one line, the friar gives a really important warning. Wisely and slow, they stumble that run fast. It's wise advice, but will Romeo actually listen? Act 2, Scene 4, Romeo's return, Tybalt's challenge, and a wedding messenger. Later that morning, Benvolio and Mercutio are still trying to figure out where Romeo disappeared to after the party. They've heard that Tybalt, Juliet's fiery cousin, has challenged Romeo to a duel. Benvolio's worried, and Mercutio is fired up. Mercutio roasts Tybalt with his signature sarcasm, calling him a fashion monger, a style over substance show off. He thinks Tybalt is all flash and no feeling. Then Romeo arrives, and the banter flies fast and filthy. Mercutio mocks Romeo for vanishing the night before, but is so thrilled to see him back to his old self, quick witted, cheeky, and ready to spar. Now art thou sociable, now art thou Romeo. The translation, he's saying, this is the Romeo I like, this is the one who jokes, and not the one who moans. Then in comes the nurse, carrying a message from Juliet. Mercutio can't help himself. He teases her mercilessly, hinting she's not quite as respectable as she wants people to believe. The nurse becomes furious. Once the boys leave, Romeo tells the nurse to tell Juliet to meet him at Friar Lawrence's cell that afternoon so they can be married. He also arranges for a rope ladder so he can sneak into Juliet's room that night. The nurse agrees to deliver the message, and the wedding is officially in motion. We're now going to talk about the themes within here. So, impulses, identity, and mixed intentions. I'm going to talk firstly about this sub theme of love as a cause of violence. Romeo and Juliet's love story might feel sweet in these scenes, but it's not happening in a vacuum. Their love is growing inside a city fueled by honor, rivalry, and revenge. We see this clearly in scene 4, when Tybalt sends Romeo a letter challenging him to a duel. Why? Because Romeo dared to crash the Capulet party. And even though he didn't cause trouble, love itself is a crime in this world. While Romeo is trying to build something peaceful and hopeful, a marriage, Tybalt is sharpening his sword. The two acts, loving and fighting, run parallel in Verona. We're well aware that Verona is full of this duality, the two sides to everything. Shakespeare is showing us that love can be just as dangerous as hate when it disrupts the social order. Romeo's love makes him a better person, but it also puts a target on his back. In this world, even something beautiful has bloody consequences. The public and private are colliding, and someone's going to get hurt. We're next going to focus on the duality of nature. So, Friar Lawrence isn't just a monk, he's a walking metaphor machine. His herb speech is one of the most important moments in the play so far. As he collects plants, he talks about how everything in nature has two sides. Virtue itself turns vice, being misapplied, and vice, sometimes by action, dignified. He's saying that what heals can also harm, and this idea stretches across the whole play. Romeo and Juliet's love is passionate and life affirming, but it also causes secrecy, conflict, and danger. Fry Lawrence hopes their marriage will turn hatred into peace, but Shakespeare is asking us to consider the other possibility. What if good intentions go bad? The potion later in the play is meant to solve a problem, but it backfires tragically. In this world, there are no simple heroes or villains. Even love and religion can be double edged. So the duality of nature isn't just about plants, it's about people. It's about how things that seem right can still go wrong. Lastly, I want to talk about Romeo's identity crisis. Romeo's having a bit of an identity crisis, and everyone around him thinks they know who he really is. Mercutio wants Romeo to be loud, clever, and crude, the ultimate lad. Juliet wants someone loyal and deep, a romantic, and a partner. And Friar Lawrence wants Romeo to be calm and cautious, someone with some long term thinking. But Romeo can't be all of these people at once. He's trying to navigate between public expectations and private emotions. In front of his in front of his friends, he jokes and banters. With Juliet, he's soft and poetic. And with the friar, he's respectful and hopeful. Shakespeare is exploring the tensions between social roles and personal truth. Romeo's identity keeps shifting depending on who he's with. He's a son, a friend, a lover, a secret fiance, and soon a husband. Each role comes with its own pressure. These scenes ask a key question: who gets to define who you are? Romeo is trying to follow his heart, but the world around him keeps pulling him in different directions. His struggle is not just about love, it's about how to be one person in a world that demands many versions of you. Let's have a look at some of our quotes. So, wisely and slow, they stumble that run fast. This line is a classic example of Shakespeare embedding future tragedy into simple, memorable phrases. As an aphorism, it delivers a universal truth. Hasty choices lead to painful outcomes. But as foreshadowing, it carries dramatic weight. We know that Romeo won't slow down. The love, the marriage, even the later violence, it all escalates rapidly. Friar Lawrence becomes the voice of reason, trying to interject wisdom into a whirlwind romance. His warning is meant to protect Romeo and Juliet, but it also reminds the audience that tragedy is already in motion. Shakespeare is subtly saying passion without patience is a recipe for disaster. Our next quote: young men's love then lies, not truly in their hearts, but in their eyes. This line is both a sharp metaphor and a bit of judgmental generalization. The friar suggests that Romeo's affections are based more on Juliet's beauty than any deep emotional connection. Lies in their eyes implies that there's something superficial, love that's only skin deep. The friar is drawing a line between lust and loyalty, warning Romeo that true love requires more than just attraction. Importantly, this critique connects back to Rosalind. The friar sees a pattern in Romeo's quick emotional turns. But this line also prompts us to question the friar himself. Is he underestimating the intensity of young love, or is he right to be cautious? Shakespeare uses this moment to blur the line between wisdom and cynicism. Now art thou sociable, now art thou Romeo. Mercutio's line uses repetition for emphasis, but it's dripping with irony. He's delighted that Romeo has stopped sulking and started joking again. But the deeper irony is that Romeo isn't back to normal. He's changed completely. He's just not telling Mercutio why. This comment shows how Mercutio sees Romeo's identity as being tied to wit, banter, and friendship, not romance and vulnerability. So when Romeo tries to balance both, being a lover and a friend, he starts to lose parts of himself. This line reflects one of the play's central tensions. How do you stay true to yourself when different people want different versions of you? Lastly, if ye should lead her into a fool's paradise, as they say, the nurse uses the idiom fool's paradise to deliver a heartfelt and slightly threatening warning. She's fiercely protective of Juliet and wants to make sure Romeo isn't leading her on. A fool's paradise refers to this false sense of happiness, an illusion that ends in pain. The nurse knows Juliet is young, impulsive, and completely smitten with Romeo, and she's trying to be the grounded adult here. The imagery is powerful. A paradise built on lies will eventually collapse. Shakespeare shows that even in a romantic story, there are real stakes and real people trying to protect what matters. The nurse becomes a voice in cautious loyalty, standing between Juliet and the dangers of blind love. We're now going to go through some of our reflective questions. Why does Friar Lawrence agree to marry Romeo and Juliet despite his concerns? Well, at first, Friar Lawrence is understandably suspicious of Romeo's sudden shift in affection, from going from Rosalind to Juliet pretty much overnight. He even questions the depth of Romeo's love, calling it not truly in their hearts but in their eyes. But despite his concerns, he agrees to marry them. But why? Because he's thinking beyond their individual love story. The friar is a peacemaker at heart. He sees their union as a potential solution to the violent feud between the Montagues and Capulets. This decision shows that Friar Lawrence is not just a spiritual guide, he's also a political optimist, someone who believes that love might succeed where diplomacy and law have failed. But there's a danger in that optimism. While his goal is noble, the plan is risky, rushed, and it's built on secrecy. He gives Romeo the advice: wisely and slowly, they stumble that run fast. But this helps set a very fast moving plan into motion. So you might ask yourself, is the friar acting out of hope or out of naivety? Is he a wise mentor, or is he someone using these two teenagers to test out a theory on peace? His role is really complex and central to the tragedy that follows. Our next question: how do these scenes show Romeo balancing love, friendship, and identity? Romeo is caught in the middle of multiple worlds, and each demands something different from him. With Juliet, he's soft, poetic, idealistic, and he's risking everything for love. With Mercutio, he's witty, bold, and crude. He matches Mercutio's energy in their wordplay, but keeps his secrets hidden. With Friar Lawrence, he's respectful, hopeful, and deeply serious. He seeks guidance and approval. In each setting, Romeo changes slightly, like he's adjusting a mask depending on who he's with. This shows how identity isn't fixed. It shifts with social context, expectations, and emotional needs. Romeo wants to be loyal to Juliet, honest with his friend, and respectful to the friar. but that balancing act is becoming harder by the minute. These scenes suggest that Romeo's biggest conflict isn't just between love and hate, it's between who he is and who everyone expects him to be. Shakespeare is asking us, can one person live up to so many different roles without breaking apart? And lastly, what is the tone of Mercutio's language and how does it contrast with the love story? We know from our introduction to Mercutio that he is sharp, energetic, and unapologetically bold. His language is packed with innuendo, sarcasm, and witty insults, and he treats love more like a joke than something sacred. When he speaks, the mood of the play shifts. He brings some comic relief, but also challenges the romantic ideals that Romeo represents. While Romeo talks in sonnets about Juliet's beauty and confesses his deepest feelings, Mercutio responds with crude humor and mockery. He mocks Romeo's devotion, belittles Tybalt's style, and even insults the nurse with some over the top sexual jokes. This contrast creates a tug of war between two views of love. Romeo's view, that being that love is serious, deep, and transformative, and Mercutio's view that love is silly, lusty, and not to be taken too seriously. Shakespeare uses this difference to add tension and complexity. Mercutio's voice is necessary. He grounds the play in the gritty reality of Verona streets. But at the same time, his refusal to take love seriously isolates him from Romeo's emotional journey. It's a clever reminder that not everyone in the world of the play believes in love the way that Romeo and Juliet do, and that disbelief becomes one more obstacle in their path. Well, that is a wrap on episode 7 of A Rose by Any Other Name. We've met a herb loving friar, seen Romeo bounce between love and loyalty, and watched secret wedding plans unfold, all before lunch. Next time, we're going to jump into Act 2, Scene 5, where the nurse returns with Romeo's message, and Scene 6, where the couple finally get married. But remember, when things move too fast, even love can stumble. Until then, think before you pick the flower or climb the balcony. See you later.